The latest thing that's driving me nuts is these 8-year-old kids begging their parents to take them to a cosmetic store to buy products.
I know.
Yeah.
They're 10, they're 11, and there's this belief amongst really young girls that they need to get on expensive skincare routines. Wear sunscreen. That is what I tell everybody.
Okay.
Trust me.
Finish this sentence. Healthy skin means...
Healthy skin means...
This is Skin Talks, the podcast where we go deeper than skin, products, and trends and explore the conversations that actually matter in health, beauty, wellness, and confidence.
We're a mother-daughter duo and the founders of Boutique Skin Envie. After years inside the industry, we've learned that health is never just about what you use. It's about everything you digest, how you think, how you live, what you eat, how you move, what you put on your skin, and how you feel in your own body.
If you're looking for insight, honesty, and a fresh perspective on the future of health, beauty, and wellness, you're in the right place.
Let's get into it.
Skin Talks podcast by Boutique Skin Envie, hosted by Beata and Natasha.
Today, we welcome Dr. Paul Cohen, who is a dermatologist in Toronto. He is a medical dermatologist and a cosmetic dermatologist, which basically means that he is bridging the medical world and skin health together, which is amazing. I've never heard of this before. This conversation was so cool. We debunked lots of myths, spoke about retinols, and really honed in on the importance of taking care of your skin and staying outside of the sun. So we hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Cohen.
I graduated in 2001. So I've been a practicing dermatologist for about 24 years. And the reason I went into dermatology is I was the typical pimple-faced teenager who spent a lot of time at his dermatologist's office. And it's sort of what you know. And thankfully, you know, we have people in my class that were diabetic who became endocrinologists. We had people in my class that lost relatives to cancer. They became oncologists. People whose parents were kidney doctors, so they became kidney doctors. And I was just sort of an oily, pimply teenager who spent a lot of time in a dermatologist's office. And that's what I got experience with. And I know the impact that he had on my life, on my self-esteem. Going through, high school with a face full of pimples and a set of braces too is never easy. And he had a very impact on my, on the way I looked, the way I felt about myself, my confidence. And I liked the way he made me feel as a teenager. And I wanted to have that experience with other people. You're making people feel better about how they look, which makes them feel better. Just their mood, the way they interact with other people, the way they interact with the world. It's important.
It
what
is.
your skin
It's
looks
really like a confidence thing especially when you're growing up and you have to deal with that. We deal with it also at Boutique Skin Envie, which is our online platform. But acne and skin challenges at any stage of your life is very difficult, but particularly when you're growing up, right? Because you're already very vulnerable and,
another issue is, you have adult women who start suffering from acne that never had it as a teenager, and they're miserable and they're very distressed. So it's also a big part of what I do as a dermatologist. But you get all these women, again, a lot of them who didn't have acne as teenagers that develop acne, and they're very distressed about it.
It's a lot. It affects everything when you have problems with your skin, not just acne, but everything around the skin is. Yeah. It's a big deal for people. Absolutely. So I love the fact that you got into it because of you having a personal experience and obviously wanting to help other people,
So I want to pretend like I have no idea what dermatology is or what a dermatologist does. Can you explain to me, for example, or our audience, of somebody who's never seen one, don't know exactly what you do? What does your day-to-day look like, and what are your...
Sure.
Yeah.
So dermatologists specialize in diseases of the skin, the hair, and the nails.
Oh.
So these are all part of dermatology. There's medical dermatology, where we do things like psoriasis, eczema, skin cancer, melanoma, all sorts of rashes, all sorts of skin cancers, basal cell, squamous cell. And then there's aesthetic dermatology, which is a big part of my particular practice, where we're dealing with things like scarring, acne, rejuvenation, wrinkle treatment, pore treatment. And many doctors do both, like I do. So I spend some of my time doing medical dermatology, so dealing with common diseases of the skin, for example, acne, rosacea, psoriasis, eczema, warts, skin cancer being probably the most important thing that we do because finding a skin cancer can save a life. And then there's the aesthetic component, which some dermatologists do exclusively and some dermatologists don't do at all. Majority of us do a combination.
Okay. I feel like my experience with, I'm going to say I've never seen a dermatologist before, so maybe I need to do that. I don't know. We'll get into that after. But I feel like from my, what I've heard about dermatologists is that most of the time it's really the medical dermatology, not so much the aesthetic. So I kind of love the fact that there's like a bridge between the two. I think that's really
Definitely.
important.
Because, first of all, your patients ask for it. So, for example, let's say you're treating acne and then these people are left with scars. How do you treat the scars? Microneedling, microdermabrasion, lasers, chemical peel. So they go part and parcel with each other. What about if you've taken a skin cancer off someone's face, off their nose, off their ear, and it's left a scar? Part of what we can do is treat the scars and make the skin look better. They do complement each other because a lot of the cosmetic sort of stems from the medical, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you just get people who are aging and they want to take care of their skin. They want their skin to look younger, look better. But the thing about dermatology is often, we see people all different ages. And, as your patients get older, so I've had so many people sort of attest to how old I am. I've had patients who I used to treat when they were kids with pimples, and now I'm doing Botox in their foreheads, which makes me feel very old. But it's kind of, the circle of life. And then when they get older, they'll probably hopefully they won't, but these people run into trouble with skin cancers and pre-skin cancers. Not as much with the younger generation because they're much more careful with sunscreen, but you have all these people kids in the 70s and 80s that were just cooking.
Yeah.
And now 30, 40 years later, 30 or 40 years later, they're paying for it because the damage you do as a kid doesn't show up till quite a bit later.
Is that something that you're seeing more and more? Actually, sorry to interrupt, but seeing more that you're seeing less skin issues because the newer generation is using sunscreen more? Like, do you see that in your practice?
I think so. The issue is there's still a percentage of the population that think it's okay to go to a sun-tanning booth, which is pure poison. And there is, generally speaking, people are much more conscientious about sunscreen and protecting their skin and sun protective clothing. But on the other hand, you get people through social media who have limited knowledge saying things like the chemicals in sunscreen are bad, the chemicals in sunscreen are going to give you cancer, and you should make sunscreens out of shea butter and coconut oil. And,
I've seen that.
there's that whole set of influencers that are sort of putting us back to 30 years ago. But there's a lot of that.
There is a
And
lot
I see
of
a lot
that.
of that on
That's why we
social
have
media.
these conversations. This is exactly why we do what we do, because we want to give people more accurate information that they can make good choices for themselves, because social media influences people in a lot of different ways that
100%. Social media, oftentimes it's good. It promotes all the cosmetic things we do and it promotes the importance of detecting skin cancer. The latest thing that's driving me nuts is these 8-year-old kids begging their parents to take them to a cosmetics store to buy products.
I know.
Yeah.
They're 10, they're 11.
I know. We just
and there's
talked
this
about
belief amongst really young girls that they need to get on expensive skincare routines. And I had a father who I was seeing for his moles, and he said, I'm going to ask you one question, Dr. Cohen. He goes, my 8-year-old daughter, who is begging me to take her to a big cosmetic store, which will remain nameless, wants to use several products. What's one product that you think she could use other than sunscreen? She wanted a special cleanser, like a cleanser moisturizer, that's fine, but a cleanser and a toner and a this and a that and all these products. And the kids are 9, 10, and they think they need to spend a ton of money to make their skin look good or to keep it healthy. So social media can be a blessing, but it can also be a disaster.
I love what you're saying, because we just had a big conversation about this, Natasha and myself, because I've talked to we talked to a lot of people in the industry. Obviously, we're in the industry and we have a big interest in it. But I'm so disturbed by that as well. I find it's just so incredibly discouraging to think
Yes.
that a young person, it's about confidence too at some level, or trying to fit in and feel perfect,
Or trying to just
fear-based
grow up.
marketing, all these things that they don't feel that they're good enough at 8 and 10 years old, that they need product to make them look better, to
That's
age
right. And they're
better.
spending tons of
They shouldn't
money.
even be thinking about that stuff at that age. Honestly, it drives me
It's
Yeah, they
nuts.
should
just
wash their face,
Yeah.
keep it clean,
Hygiene.
put on sunscreen. Listen, the positive, if people are more invested in their skin and are more vigilant with sunscreen, at least that's a positive.
That's a positive. I agree.
And, I think people are getting a little younger, like we're talking about women in their 20s are getting a little, quote unquote, paranoid about wrinkles. But at least if they'll wear sunscreen, I'll take it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I agree.
But you have no idea, the age of people asking for cosmetic interventions is going down.
I know.
And it's kind of scary and it's sad. But the product thing is a big deal.
Yeah.
It's really, these are young kids that think they need all this stuff. They don't.
No, they don't. And yeah.
It's
a thing.
It's just because of the influence that they see and they want, like they look up to, like I can speak for myself because I mean, I'm 31, so I'm definitely not in that generation, but like I can imagine growing up in the world where like you see your favorite celebrity or you see your favorite influencer on Instagram, like she's so pretty and you want to be like her. And then you see that she's dropping a new skincare line or she's whatever. And then you just want that, right? It's because it's like, that's the influence that it gives. And it's, like, how do you set, like, it's like, how do, as a parent, like, do you separate the, like the reality from like that aspect, that online aspect? It's so intense.
Everywhere. And I've noticed it so much just in the past couple of weeks. These kids that are coming for warts, that's what little kids come for to dermatologists. And they're like, what should I use? Should I use this? I'm like, and they're giving me lists of things. I'm like, you're 8. Wash your face, wear sunscreen, keep it clean, live your life.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I
So what
remember
we're also seeing,
Unbelievable.
I just wanted to say something. What we're also seeing because of this is like this influence on social medias, this perfect glass-like flawless skin that everybody aims to have, where a lot of people of influence will talk about, I applied this acid, then that acid, then this percent retinol, and then this cream, and then this, and then this, and then this, that I use this device. And they actually are completely destroying their barrier, right? Like the complete,
They can't be, they're destroying their barrier and often they're filtered. That's the thing.
Yeah.
You can't believe everything you see.
No, I know.
And certain people don't have the time or the money to spend on all these things.
No.
And people feel like they need to, and they don't.
No, they don't. Perfect message.
There's a lot of good skincare that you can buy at a regular drugstore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, listen, I sell nice products in my office and most of my colleagues do, but there's always alternatives. And I say, this is my vitamin C. It costs X. If you don't want to spend that, here's an alternative.
Mm-hmm.
But these are adults, not kids.
Yeah.
But you get kids. Do I need a vitamin C serum? Like, you're 14, you're covered in pimples. Let's clear up your pimples. And in 10 years, we'll talk about the next step.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I do want to say, you had something that you wanted to say before.
I know from like my generation of growing up, I was using professional grade skincare, thanks to you, when I was 11, but it was a cleanser, a toner, and a moisturizer. And I remember it being this pure environment, like very calming. It was Mary Core. I don't know if you've heard of Mary. It's like very...
Not Mary Kay, Mary Core. It's a professional brand from France. So when we talk about professional skincare and medical grade skincare, I know there's a lot of like stigmatism around it, but I look at it and say that you've got your retail brands, you've got your pharmaceutical brands like prescription, you've got your professional, which is where you have facials and treatments that are not too invasive, but that they have some science-backed evidence behind them. And then for me, medical grade skincare is really skincare that you can buy only when you have a medical director, like Zeo Skin Health or SkinCeuticals and stuff like that.
Believe me, there's a place for it, and I sell it, and I believe in it.
I do too, yeah.
But for a young person, I might say, if you really like my cleanser because it's great, go for it. And a bit of moisturizer, but they don't need 7 layers. They don't need serum. You need moisturizer, cleanser, sunscreen.
Yeah.
Period.
Very basic. They just need the basics. And anyways, I think if you start doing things very, very young, what are you going to do when you really need it? You know what I mean?
Well, you used to tell me actually all the time. I remember like in my 20s, I would be using an anti-aging product because she's been in the industry forever. So I grew up in the skincare industry. And I remember being like, oh, I'm going to try this like anti-aging cream just because it was a tester she had at home. And she's like, yeah, but it's not like, you don't need that because you're not in that genre of where you need anti-aging, right? Because you're in your early 20s. It's not going to do anything for your skin.
I also think it's really terrible messaging for young kids. But you also
set my expectations growing up, like making me realize like, I don't need this yet. Like I'm going to get there when I get there.
The trick really for somebody in their 20s, first of all, a lot of the anti-aging products are designed for mature skin that's dry and estrogen depleted. And you put it on a 20-year-old and they get acne.
Yeah, exactly.
Or something that's called perioral dermatitis.
Exactly.
I see this all the time, that women use heavy cream and they get like an acne-like rash around their nose, their mouth, and their eyes. So the real message, like when I have somebody in their 20s saying, what can I do to protect my skin? I'm like, sunscreen. The first, like I just did a whole thing on the morning show talking about Sculptra and Radiesse and all sorts of cosmetic procedures. And the thing I said, if you don't have the money, the first $20 is a good bottle of sunscreen, period.
At very minimum, it's
That's
a sunscreen. Everybody
it's
needs
the sunscreen. You can do all the anti-aging products you want. If you don't protect your skin from the sun, you're wasting your money.
Absolutely.
But I do, as I said, one of the positives, I do think people are more conscientious, the ones that are investing their time and money into a lot of products they don't need. But usually that comes part and parcel with a better sense of the importance of protecting themselves from the sun. That being said, there are still a lot of people out there that think going to sun tanning booths are okay and think that a tan provides protection, where it's really a tan. Once you've tanned your skin, you've damaged your skin, and a tan is like an SPF of 4. It's not good. So there's still some people floating around that think it's okay. And I don't burn. I don't need sunscreen. I'm olive skinned. I don't need sunscreen. Trust me, you need it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I heard of this thing. I'm going to butcher this, but it was like, your diet could help you against the sun, like a specific oil.
I've heard of it too.
If you eat like I don't know.
There is a supplement. I think it's called HelioCare.
Okay.
And it's a pill that you can take that has some sun protective value.
Okay.
And it's a supplement. So there is a little bit of science behind that. I believe it's called HelioCare, and it's like a vitamin. It's like a pill.
We have something from Ben Beauty also has something.
The green one, glycidin.
No, but Ben Beauty also has one. So anyways, there are things, but you can't just only do that. You still need to wear a sunscreen on top of that. You can't just take a supplement and protect your skin from the sun.
Exactly. And, and sunscreens, I always say sunscreen's part of the picture. Sun protective clothing, wear sunglasses, wear a hat, avoid the midday sun, seek shade. Mm-hmm. Sunscreen's important, but it's not everything.
No. 100%.
And if you're swimming and you have to reapply, so I like that I see a lot more young people wearing sun protective shirts if they're spending a prolonged period of time in the sun. Because if you're like snorkeling and the sunscreen gets washed off,
it does get washed off.
Your back.
Yeah. So what about young babies, and what is your opinion around the babies and sunscreen, or children, let's say under the age of 2? What should you do in the summertime?
So the bottom line is there has been no good evidence that sunscreen chemicals are harmful to kids over 6 months. When they're really young, sun protective clothing and shade are a must. Yeah. But there's a lot of unnecessary bad press towards sunscreen saying that there's dangerous chemicals. Now, some sunscreens are better than others. 10 years ago, there was sunscreens that probably still had PABA, which is controversial, and most of them, the overwhelming majority, do not anymore. But the Journal of the American Academy of Dermatology, the big Bible of dermatology, I think it was last April, published a huge article that reviewed all the ingredients in sunscreens, and good sunscreens, and did not show that these chemicals were harmful. and there's different types of sunscreen. There's chemical sunscreens that sort of absorb the UV, and then there's the physical ones that reflect it, which are more of those white, chalky
or
sunscreens
the hybrid, they have like chemical
and there's hybrids as well. And they kind of reflect the ultraviolet rather than absorbing. So it's less chemically if you're worried about chemicals. But, there's still a school of thought that these chemicals are harmful. If you pick a good quality sunscreen in Canada, ones that are approved by the Canadian Dermatology Association are safe. You need UVA, you need UVB protection, and you need to apply it often. But again, if people are nervous about chemicals, which they don't really need to be, there's sun protective clothing. Like wear a sun shirt, swim in the ocean, and you don't have to, there's other ways to protect yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm telling these people, if you get a sunburn before the age of 18, your chance of melanoma is like 3 or 4 times higher as an adult. The sins that you do under the age of 18 come back and haunt you when it comes to sun.
I know.
And the problem is a lot of people start experimenting with sun tanning booths when they're 16 or 17. And that's the time when your skin is still very vulnerable, or as a child.
Yeah. Yeah. It's scary.
So, these people are so fussed with the 6 layers of skincare. Wear sunscreen. That is what I tell everybody. Okay. Trust me. On my medical dermatology days, we're cutting skin cancer off all the time. Some skin cancer, like melanoma, if it's caught early, you should be fine. If it's not, it could spread. It can kill you. A lot of skin cancer, the majority of it can deform your skin. So if you get a skin cancer in your nose or ears, where you get we cut a little piece of your ear off or a piece of your nose, it's very disfiguring.
Yeah.
So people really need to protect themselves.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't agree. I think we've really made sure that anybody listening to this today is going to understand that they need to get on a sunscreen, and don't listen to anything or anyone that says you don't need one.
And homemade sunscreen does not cut it.
No.
It's like an SPF of 6 with the shea butter and the coconut oil and the zinc powder. It does not give you the same protection as a rigorously tested, commercially available sunscreen.
Okay. I have one question. Hold your thought, Tash. I have one question, because I did a podcast a couple of years ago, and I wasn't sure if I understood this properly. So we have skin cancer that develops from UVB rays, which are the browns and the burns, right?
Yes.
But also I was under the impression that a lot of skin cancer is not necessarily caused by the sun. It's caused by the UVA, and it can be anywhere on the body. You don't need to be exposed to UV rays to get skin cancer. Could you talk about that?
So UVB, which predominantly causes burn.
Yeah.
UVB definitely contributes to skin cancer. UVA doesn't cause a burn, but it causes a lot of aging of the skin, and it can cause cataracts. And UVA can penetrate through window glass.
Right. It can cause cancers in your body, right? The UVA rays.
So it can cause cancers on your skin. But the issue is there are a lot of skin cancers that show up on non-sun exposed areas, especially in people of skin of color. So, for example, if a black person comes into my office, I'll check their palms and their soles. And even sometimes in the groin, where there's no sun, it's not always where the sun shines. Especially melanoma can occur in a place that's never seen the sun. It's more common to find it on the upper back in men and women, or the women's calves, melanoma, because of lots of sun exposure, but it can be anywhere.
So
it can be in your mouth. It can be in your eye.
Not
as common.
Eye. Jeez. Wow.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Which leads me to ask, is going to the dermatologist as important as going to see a dentist? Should you be seeing a dermatologist to check the things on your body, every 6 to 9 months? What is the process?
That's a very good question. So it really depends. So if you're someone who has a high risk of getting skin cancer, so let's, if you have acne, eczema, psoriasis, for sure you need to see a dermatologist, depending how severe it is, that is. But if you're a person, the most important thing we do is look for skin cancer. So if you're a person who's at high risk, if you're a redhead, if you have multiple moles, if you've had a history of multiple sunburns, if you have a family history of skin cancer, these are people that we should be seeing. So people who are at high risk, lighter skinned, history of multiple sunburns, multiple moles on their body, family history of melanoma, family history of skin cancer. These are the people that we should definitely be seeing. Now, there's also people who might have 1 or 2 moles. However, if they notice that this mole is changing size, shape, or color, it should be evaluated. Oftentimes, the family doctor can do that first.
There are thousands of products out there. Every brand claims to be clean, clinical, or the best. It's impossible to know who to trust. At Boutique Skin Envie, we do the work for you. We don't carry everything. We curate only the brands and products that are science-backed, results-driven, that we love and feel are truly worth your skin and your money. No paid placements, no hype, no guessing, just skincare you can trust, with real guidance from people who actually care. Use code SkinTalks15 at bskinenvie.ca. That's BSKINENVIE.ca for 15% off your first order.
At what age do you suggest people start to go visit a dermatologist?
It sort of depends. It depends on what their skin looks like. Most of the time, the pediatrician or family doctor will say, you know what, you're pretty freckly. You should be seen by a dermatologist. But so it's not really the age. It depends. If you have if somebody is 50 and they have no moles and they have no problems, I don't just see them. But if there's a kid who's 8 or 9 or 10, or even people with birthmarks, sometimes birthmarks can be problematic. So we see babies on occasion.
Okay.
It just depends on what they have.
So there's no particular rule around it.
No.
It's just making sure that you're checking out your own skin regularly, like the same way somebody would do their own personal breast exams. You
exactly.
just keep in check with your skin and watch when things start to change.
And the bottom line is, and we tell people, if a mole changes size, shape, or color, make sure somebody sees it. And, they talk about the ABCs of melanoma, like moles that are asymmetric. B is irregular border. C is color, if it's dark black or multiple colors. D is diameter bigger than a pencil eraser. And E is evolution. So if your moles are showing any of these features, just make sure you have a professional person check them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I love that. Thank you very much.
I need to see a dermatologist.
I do too. I've been trying to get an appointment. I mean, it's almost impossible in Quebec to get an appointment. I've sent my dermatologist.
It's hard.
I've had it's crazy.
The other issue that makes it hard is a lot of the new graduates are focusing on aesthetics, because there's lots of benefits of doing aesthetic medicine. You're not under the guise of the government charging.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to get a dermatologist. So, I still do both, but my medical days, they're hard.
Yeah.
Like I might see 70 or 80 people.
Wow.
They're hard and they're grinding. And then on my cosmetic days, I'll see a third of that.
Yeah.
And monetarily, it's much more financially rewarding, if you will.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're not accepting new clients.
Sorry?
You're not accepting new patients.
Wink, wink.
So I still do the medical because it's important.
Yes.
And dermatologists are the ones who are the best trained at detecting skin cancer. But, for financial reasons, a lot of people don't use that skill, which is a shame because that's what we went to school for. And it's funny, when I was a resident 100 years ago or 25 years ago, that's when all this stuff got like Botox and fillers. It just came into the market. I had no idea when I became a dermatologist that I'd be doing Botox. I thought I'd be treating people with pimples and skin cancer and other rashes. And this is when this all came about, and it's become a big part of dermatology. But the important thing is the skin cancer. That's the most important thing a dermatologist can do. A dermatologist can find a skin cancer, and if it's depending on the type, if it's found early, that can save a life.
Absolutely.
And it's important.
It is very important. It is very important. I want to get a little bit into what the aesthetic medicine and the dermatology world. So I just want to tell you a little bit about what we see, because we do a lot of virtual consultations. We also have a clinic in just outside of Montreal where we have, Botox fillers and some advanced procedures, heat technologies and stuff like that. But a lot of people come to see us who have gone to see dermatologists before and are being treated for acne, let's say with Accutane or other topicals. And what I find is that, and I'd like to know your opinion on this, is that the dermatology, or like the classic dermatologist, doesn't necessarily talk about the skin health. They're like, the patient comes, they have acne, they are put on a prescription, but nothing is talked about when it comes to product to be using at home to be able to keep the barrier in check. Because when you go on Accutane, it really get dry, and that you can see people are like shedding, right? So they come to see us, and then they develop these conditions of a lot of redness, a lot of like tiny little pimples, very, very dry skin. And the dermatologist will prescribe another product to put on that and say, okay, just work it through for the next 3 months. But there's so much struggle around that. And so we always try to build them routines that are really going to help to build the skin barrier, calm down the skin topically. And so I guess my thing is I'm wondering why this happens, and the skin health itself.
I think it's a time constraint.
Oh,
I think
really,
it's time. Like when we're doing our medical days, you have 10 or 15 people waiting to see you. So you got pimples, here's your prescription. And you do need a more holistic approach.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, depending on who the dermatologist, depending on their slant, I have estheticians that can help and say, okay, you want to talk in detail about products, maybe for an older kid or a young adult, meet with my esthetician, and she can put you on some products and give you and educate.
Yeah. It's
just a time constraint.
It is,
We're like, here's your prescription. And so in our practice, we use estheticians and even and the nurses as an adjunct who can do the patient education. And because we're usually just rushing in and out of there.
Swamped. I get that.
And we just don't have the time.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
It does. It makes me understand it more, because I'm always like scratching my head, wondering why this happens, that people are so, their skin barrier is completely destroyed. They don't know what to do. And it's something like, I don't know what happens with it. I find people, we know how to go shopping and buy ourselves clothes. We're good at, you want to go get your hair cut and a good hair color and stuff, but somehow we're lost in the world of how to manage and achieve healthy skin, which is always for me the goal. Like your optimal state of skin health is ultimately your own perfection, your beauty.
And in terms of products, it's really where good nurses and medical estheticians can really help, the patient's experience. Because, sometimes the doctor is so rushed, we don't have time for the education. I give it lots of handouts about how to use the medications, but we're running from door to door, and they need the extra support. And sometimes they need the extra, a little bit of emotional support too, depending 100%. On what the kid looks like, or the adult.
Yeah.
100%.
It's a big part of it. It's not just the face. Like if you think of certain skin diseases that you get all over your body, like psoriasis or eczema, it affects your interpersonal interactions, your confidence.
Everything.
And sometimes we forget that. Like I had a patient who had terrible psoriasis, and I haven't seen one that bad in years. And I was probably an hour and a half behind. And I went in and I said, there's all these, thank God there's these new medications for psoriasis called biologics. They're needles, they're injections. And these were developed about 10 or 15 years ago. So back in the day when I started seeing people with bad psoriasis, you were kind of stuck with it. And now, thankfully, you're not. And I actually sort of went in and went out. I gave him this medication that he had heard of. And I actually called him back 2 days later because I felt bad. I go, this guy is 35. He's covered head to toe in a terrible skin. And I just needed a minute when I could breathe and say, just double checking. Did you have questions? How are you feeling? Because, we know people with certain skin diseases have a higher incidence of depression, a higher incidence of suicidality. And I just, we're rushing and rushing. And it just happened this week. I called him back when I had a minute to breathe, checking in, how you doing, have any questions? Because we're really pushed in Ontario, the dermatologists, the medical dermatologists, the few of us that still do it, we're pushed to the break, and we're rushing, and we need time, and we need adjunctive staff. And remember, some kids who are 15 with a bit of acne, but to them, that's everything. That's their face.
Oh
that's their self-esteem.
Confidence.
It is. It's how they start their lives.
You need people to help with the doctor, to help plan a program, to help explain how to use medication, how to use other treatments, moisturizers, cleansers, etc. And so we try to do that as much as we can, but we're rushing.
No, it's interesting though, because back in the day, a dermatologist never really recommended an esthetician or anything, right? It was like you had your estheticians, you had the spas, and you had the dermatologist, but there was no correlation
Yeah.
or like interchange between the two. But I find today more and more we're seeing that. So for example, what we do at Boutique Skin Envie is we do virtual consultations. So we see people over Zoom all over
Yep.
Canada, and we look at their skin. We talk to them about their skin, what they're taking in prescription medication, any types of treatments that they're doing. We do like a whole intake, and then we give them routines to help them to achieve their goals. So I think that there's a nice opportunity to bridge those two worlds, because people don't know what to do. And there's so much marketing, fear-based marketing, influence, like we talked about earlier, that gets people really confused and they just keep buying. And then this over-consumerism starts to happen and it makes the matters worse. And it's just this like big, huge spiral effect.
And they get confused.
There's a confusion around it. Yeah. And people just want to be feeling good in their bodies, right? That's ultimately what people would like, I think. Yeah. I want to get into retinols, but I'm going to let you. You're very excited about it.
I'm like, I need to know your opinion on prescription retinol. Like, what do you like? Because there's this whole thing is like prescription retinol, and then it's like, no, but professional grade retinol. So like, what is your opinion on the two? Is one better than the other? How do they work differently? Like, what's the difference?
So prescription retinol, which I use a lot, is great for acne, and it's also anti-aging, but some prescription retinols are quite drying and irritating, and certain people cannot tolerate them. And there's different ways to use prescription retinols. If the patient is a young acne patient who's quite oily, you wash your face, you put on your retinol, you go to bed. And the trick is a pea covers the entire face. I tell them a pea for the entire face, a little dab will do you. Sometimes you have to put moisturizer on top of the retinol so it's more tolerated. You have to build up a tolerance, do it every other night for a couple of weeks. Sometimes we do what's called sandwiching the retinol, wash the face, moisturizer, retinol,
On
moisturizer to make it more tolerable for the people who have acne that are dry, but people who are really oily tolerate it fine. And then the non-prescription retinols are great for anti-aging. They're milder, they're better tolerated. And some people just cannot tolerate a prescription strength retinol. And the nice thing about retinol is, generally speaking, depending on what vehicle it comes in, it's anti-aging and usually anti-acne. As long as it's not a rich, thick moisturizer with retinol, which would be good for anti-aging if you have dry skin. But the thing about retinol is it oftentimes kills two birds with one stone. It's anti-aging and anti-acne and anti-scarring and helps make the skin smoother. It just as long as you can tolerate it. Problem is some people can't if they have sensitive skin, and some people use too much in terms of prescription. So we give very explicit instructions. If it's prescription, a pea for the entire face every other night for a couple weeks. And especially now with the weather getting cooler, it can be a little harder to tolerate. So there are formulations of prescription retinol that are a little less drying. They're in a bit of a more moisturizing base versus a gel base, which is really good if you're oily. And the retinols that you can get over the counter, they too come in moisturizing creams if someone has really dry skin. They come in almost like a thin, watery moisturizer if someone's oily or something that's mattifying. So you just have to pick the right one.
Yeah, the right percentage too, because what I like about, let's say, professional grade or medical grade retinols is you can get like 0.25 to 3%, and then you can get a 0.5% and then a 1%. So you can kind of graduate from one to the next.
Titrate it upwards. That's the beauty of prescription.
Period. Because I find we see a lot of people that have a prescription retinol, and they often say, well, my dermatologist recommended this retinol and it's much better. It's way better than medical grade. But I'm not sure I agree with that so much, because I think that sometimes if you're using something that you're actually never going to use because your skin can't tolerate it, so they kind of abandon it, right? So we always try to, so I've always thought that they're equal, but they just need to be used properly.
And the issue with, if they're not compliant, you're not getting results.
Exactly.
So if we go back to a kid who's using prescription retinol and it's too drying and irritating, they're not going to use it. They're not going to get better. So you do have to find something that they'll use. And same with anti-wrinkle. If it's
Compliance.
not convenient to use, if it's too rich and making them break out, you're not going to use it. So you have to find the formulation. And as we said, it comes in creams, it comes in gels, it comes in lotions if you're oilier, creams if you're drier. Like, you just have to pick the right base for your skin type.
And introduce it for when you actually need it. Like,
Gradually.
we see a lot of people that are using retinols that are in their 20s and they've got beautiful skin. It's like,
I
why
don't
are you
need it
using a
yet.
retinol? Yeah, I don't think that you need to be using a retinol in your 20s if you have no particular concern. It's like, again, going back to the young people getting into
Unless
skincare
they're using it if they have a bit of acne or acne
but if
scarring.
they don't have it, they don't need it until they get older, right? I would
You
say.
probably don't need it. I think is, the important thing, maybe somebody in their 20s, I would start, obviously the sunscreen. I think, you might start considering using like a vitamin C serum, but you don't have to buy one that's $500. Vitamin C is a great product. And that's an example of something 20s, 30s, you could consider start using to start to use. I like vitamin C. It's important.
Yeah, they say that. I've heard like it reduces inflammation. It reinforces the sunscreen.
Yes.
It's an antioxidant. It's brightening. It's working on just your overall radiance of your skin. I think inflammation is the thing that we really need to always be considering when whatever we're doing to keep the inflammation in the body as low as possible in all aspects of inflammation.
Exactly, like with diet and
everything.
Exactly.
Right.
I do want to get into like the holistic approach to skincare in a second, but first of all, like I want to debunk this. A lot of people say that retinol causes like skin thinning. People think that, is that like true? What's going on there?
Well, what it's doing is it's some retinols are exfoliating the skin, so they're getting rid of all the dead layers on top. But what's supposed to be happening as well is it's stimulating your body to make collagen. So the skin could be thinner because you're exfoliating the dead, dull skin on the top. But what the retinol is doing is telling your body to make more collagen and elastin, so your skin will be plumper and younger looking. So it's shedding off
resurfacing
dead skin. You have to be careful if you're using retinol in the sun because your skin is a little bit more vulnerable to burn. And that's why you always use retinol
at night,
unless there's sunscreen at night.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you wash it off in the morning. So there is definitely that misconception about thinning the skin, but it is exfoliating and getting rid of dead, dull skin.
Which is good.
But at the same time, which is good, but it's also stimulating your body to make more collagen and elastin to make the skin plumper.
They say it's the gold standard. Like they say retinol is the gold standard in skincare.
Do you agree with that?
It's been studied a lot.
A lot, yeah.
Right? There's so many studies on prescription strength retinol. It's been studied, which is sort of reassuring that it's actually doing something.
I think retinol and vitamin C are probably the most clinical studies have been done on those two particular ingredients in dermatology.
And I think, and personally, most of my people, 30s, 20s, 30s, 40s, I'm saying, they're all asking about skincare. I say sunscreen 1, vitamin C in the morning. If you can tolerate a retinol at night, as long as you're not pregnant, retinol at night, those are the 3 most important.
Yeah.
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 What about retinol and breastfeeding?
Breastfeeding, my understanding is that it's okay. And with, but pregnancy, we stay away from these types of products.
Yeah. And also certain essential oils and acids and things like that.
But it's also people's comfort level. Like, in the, maybe 5 years ago, in Toronto, there was the Sick Kids Hospital had a service called Mother Risk. And if you're pregnant or trying to get pregnant or breastfeeding, you could call and say, my doctor prescribed X, can I use this? And they would tell you there's lots of evidence that it's fine. There's a little bit of evidence, and you'd get sort of reassurance about what products you could use. It was called Mother Risk. And for some reason, it's not around anymore. But oftentimes when people were nervous about products, they call them and they get a very clear, succinct answer as to what's safe and what's not safe.
I think that's a great service, but it seems today that AI is...
I think there's some sort of substitute. I don't know off the top of my head, but it was called Mother Risk, and they literally, pregnant mothers expecting or trying to get pregnant would call and say, I've been prescribed X. And the funny thing is, they had a pre-recorded menu. If you want to talk about sunscreen, press 1, because that would be one of the more common ones.
I love it.
And sunscreen's fine.
It's good though. It's good though. I find it's important, I mean, I do a lot of, I'll be honest with you, because you can't always speak to a medical professional about stuff. But for me, when I'm building routines for people, oftentimes I'll go in and say, okay, this product from Zeo Skin Health, let's say Daily Power Defense, is that safe for pregnancy? And they'll say all the factors that are checked green. Yes, yes, yes. Caution for this ingredient. So then I'll share that with my clients, because I just think transparency is really important, and ultimately they have to make the choices for themselves. And
Exactly.
I don't think that there's brands or, we're not testing products on pregnant women, right? So it's not something that's done. So it's really, like you said, you have to be informed and have to be able to make the choice for yourself. But we know the things to stay away from.
Yeah.
The obvious stuff,
Yeah,
Right.
the acids.
This
the
has been so
retinols.
fun. I love this because it's clarifying some things for me, even though I've been in the industry for 30 years. Having a conversation with you has helped me to also, it reinforces some things, but it also opens me up to some new things I didn't know. So I really like that.
And I love the bridge between the two, because I feel like you explained in the beginning, when you take a skin cancer off the skin, but then you're going to do like microneedling after to help with scarring, whatever it is, like you're really giving your patients a 360 approach, and you're not just leaving them kind of hanging after they just went through something major ultimately. Right. And now they still can feel confident after they've gone through this procedure with you. And I just feel like I had no idea that was even a thing. I remember preparing for this podcast. I was like, is this like, does he do both? I'm confused.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Because, for the basal cell skin cancer, which is the most common type of skin cancer, which would not spread or kill you like melanoma or squamous cell can, one of the biggest issues is cosmetic disfigurement.
Yeah.
And again, anything we can do other than diagnosing the skin cancer early and catching it early, if you're left with a scar, it's nice to be able to provide solutions, because you have, skin cancer affects young people too, and you don't want a big scar on your nose if you can avoid it.
100%. It's just also offering that extra support and reassurance that there's things to help to mitigate the discomforts of everything,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So at the end of every single podcast, we always ask our guests like 3 rapid questions. So we're just going to ask you some questions and just give us your immediate response.
Okay.
This is not a test, Dr. Cohen.
I'm nervous already.
No, it's good. It's good. Finish this sentence. Healthy skin means.
Healthy skin means happy people.
I love it.
I love that. What's the one piece of advice you would give someone looking to have healthier skin?
Sunscreen and sun protective behavior, sun protective clothing, seeking shade, sunglasses, being careful out there.
Hats.
I knew that. I could have guessed that. Now our last question, regardless of, so take the sunscreen out of this. What's one thing you hope every listener takes home after our chat?
Well, I think medically speaking, if someone notices a mole changing, or we talked about the ABCs of melanoma, which is the most serious type of skin cancer. If a mole is changing size, shape, or color, if a mole is asymmetric, has an irregular border, multiple colors, usually bigger than a diameter, bigger than a pencil eraser, it's evolving the ABCs, go see a doctor and have it checked. You do not need to die from skin cancer, but if you don't find it, you can.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Very important. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for today.
Thank you so much. That was a lot of fun.
Thank you for listening to Skin Talks.
If this episode inspired you, taught you something new, or just made you feel seen, please share with someone you love. And if you believe in thoughtful and empowering conversations that help you make better choices for yourself around your beauty and wellness, please rate and review the show. It helps us to grow our community, and we deeply appreciate it. Because this isn't just about skin.
It's about claiming your beauty, feeling strong, informed, and at home in yourself.
See you next week.